Humanity sets the agenda.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. 10 after 8 o'clock exactly. And our first guest is Hassen Lorgat. He's a social justice activist. And the good news is that I do have him here till 8:35 this morning. Lots to uncover on the show. Something that's been going around not only on social media, but we've covered it from the time the war has started. Or the invasion by Russia into the Ukraine. Well, it is a war, technically speaking. Call it what you will, invasion or a war, but it is happening. Lots of lives have been lost. But we are going to be looking at issues around, I guess, bias in the reporting by media houses regarding the invasion. But first up, obviously, I spoke about International Women's Day. I spoke about women and girl children and their key participation in equalizing the playing fields in all areas of life, very especially in light of their role in climate change. And Hassan, being a social justice activist, I can't let him not comment on this issue before we get to the heart of the matter regarding bias in Western media regarding the war and other disenfranchised communities around the world. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program, Hassen Lorgat, social justice activist. Always a pleasure talking to you. And I do hope and pray on a lighter note that we don't get a visit from your cat this time around. Let's go ahead.
Walaikum salam, and thank you to have me. Our cat's in hospital, shame, but that's another story.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope she makes a speedy recovery.
She will today, I guess. Julie, you have raised an issue that is so close to my heart, and it's a guilt that I carry as an activist, in that we are so active around Palestine, around the greening of the environment, against waste, etc., against overconsumption. But it's somehow so tragic that the scourge against women, and I use the example, I think that Catherine McKinnon used in her book called Are Women Human? If a woman walks down the street, my partner or our daughter, they are more likely to be harassed than I would be walking down the street. And I guess in a way that we cannot talk about the bigger issues of justice if we ignore the elephant in the room, that women are not equals. They are supposed to be equals in law, but in practice they are not. They're likely to be abused or raped for simply walking down the street, going to school, going to work, etc. And this scourge is something that a few people, Bishop Paul Verheyen and others, have been meeting every Monday. I'm a part of that group, trying to sensitize the big media, SABC and others, for their failures to tackle this issue. That if it's such a scourge, why is it that in all our homes, on our TV screens, on our radio stations, we are not talking about it? Why do we choose some days, like International Women's Rights Day or National Day for Women, to talk about this, where the injustice is perpetrated on a daily basis? So it's very, very related to these conversations today about what the media chooses to cover and what it does not choose to cover. And of course, in the Ukraine case, as we'll go in later, we do not focus so much on the gendered perspectives, although feminists may point that out to us, but we will look at how race, how white-centeredness is at the heart of how our media has chosen to report that instead of the other struggles, as well as the other struggles where people are suffering.
And I bring up a very sensitive point regarding women and their rights. And we as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we do know that our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam emancipated women 1400 years ago. And despite that, we still find that women are discriminated against, not only in the Muslim community, but globally. Women are still being discriminated against. Women are still being abused. Women are still being underpaid and overworked. Women still have to prove that much work, that much harder to be on the same level as their male counterparts in any social or commercial setting, in the corporate world, anywhere at all. We just have to work that much harder to prove that we are equal in every sense of the word.
Julie, you've said it. I mean, and the last prophet of the Muslims, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a progressive and respectful of women. He went to his wife to ask about what are these apparitions and that I'm experiencing. What is this? And he affirmed the value of the opinions of women. And so clearly, women in Islam, Muslim women, all women fight a fight inside the faith of how men are interpreting or choosing to interpret the faith that sometimes is unjust to women, and that is your right to do, and it's our right to support those women who stand up and speak for the cause of justice, because our faith and all the faiths teach us that we must fight for compassion and justice. Islam make that a clarion call, So there's no excuses. That those who stand in the path of affirming the justice of all must be challenged.
Absolutely. Let's then move on, and I guess I was listening to another radio station on my way to work this morning, and the presenter then asked about the value of International Women's Day. Does anything come out of it? Are people actually paying attention to International Women's Day? And for us here in South Africa, 8th of August, where we have Women's Day here, it's about recognizing women and affording them their rightful place in society and communities. He kind of almost suggested that perhaps it's wasted effort. I don't think it's wasted effort, because even if we only talk about it twice a year, at least we are planting the seed. At least our boy children will, inshallah, growing up knowing that their sisters and their girl cousins and their mothers are also as human and are also deserving of all of the rights that our boys and our men are afforded or enjoy.
That is true, Julie, but boys and that are of women born. So sometimes mothers also help, and society at large, socialize men and boys into certain things. I want my boy to be like this, a tough guy. So clearly the discussion is open. As much as you say, Julie, when it's your birthday, your kids try to treat you special for that day. And hopefully we wish that the lesson and the appreciation goes for longer than that. That's all we can wish for in these days, but it's our task as activists. The work you do as a humanitarian radio station is to make sure that these values are lived through every day.
Absolutely. And we as women, as mothers, as girls, as sisters, need to continue sensitizing our children, both girls and boys, to recognize the equality of women, the worth and the value of women in our homes, in our communities, and in society at large. What we will do now, Hassen, is take an ad break, and when we come back, let's talk about Western media, or I guess media in general, and the bias displayed by media with world-breaking events, inshallah. Stand by.
Thank you very much.
Nasiri Product is your one-stop health shop. Fresh dates directly from Medina Al Munawwara, available for Ramadan and all year long. We're also stockists of nuts, honey, figs, pure olive oil, oats mixed with dates and nuts, and other varieties of healthy food products in store. Contact us on 011 075 5770 or WhatsApp us on 073 565 9355. Visit our website at www.nasiriproduct.co.za. We are located in Fordsburg, 1792 Albertina Sisulu Road, opposite Shan Spices. Nasiri Products.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Did you know that through Sanzaf, you can provide a meal to an individual for only 12 Rand? By committing to a monthly contribution, you can assist us in reaching out to more communities and deserving individuals. A once-off donation will also be highly appreciated in helping us achieve our monthly target. For more information, call us on 011 834 6046. Sanzaf, changing lives through development and relief.
Babu, why don't you loosen your belt a bit more?
But why now?
Well, it's very tight, blocking air to your brain.
Hadu, this is only a start. I need to tighten up a bit more. Funds are tight and the cost of living is high.
Funds are not tight. It's your haram insurance which is tightening our barakat.
Okay, Hadu. I will call my insurance friend tomorrow.
Maybe I must tighten up on my cooking from now on too.
No, Hadu, we don't need to tighten up. It's okay. Look, I'm even throwing away my belt.
Don't tighten your belt. Change your insurance. Leaving Riba Insurance is easier than you think. Call Amana IFS for all your personal and commercial takaful needs. 0861 786 393. Amana, leave Riba for good. Amana IFS is a registered financial services provider.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is exactly 8:22 a.m. and I have an article here in front of me that was penned by our guest Hassen Lorgat. And let me just start off by talking about a UN study which he talks about in his article. A United Nations study recently published said that by the end of last year, an estimated 377,000 Yemenis have died in the US-Saudi war, direct and indirect causes, obviously. Most, if not two-thirds of the victims, sadly, are children. And the South African media, and I should imagine international media, have largely been silent about the war in Yemen and the plight of other refugees who, to quote a prosecutor from the Ukraine, who are not blue-eyed and blonde. I have covered this last week as well. It has been taking social media by storm, and it just shows the disparity between black and white. What I have also indicated in one of my shows, Hassan, is that it seems, and I think the white world have now finally confirmed that black lives do not matter.
Yeah. Julie, just, thank you for this. I think that partly what I was trying to explore in my short piece, well, it's a bit longish, called Despicable Me, Dia. I've been trying to see how the media has chosen to report it. In fact, South African media, and if you look at mainstream, 702, SAFM, they go so deep into perspectives that you will not be sure where you are. You think that you are covering this from next door, from Poland or something, because the perspectives are so Eurocentric. And I wasn't sure whether this was because of media ownership, because the one's a public broadcaster, the one's private, or whether it was simply that we were too lazy, or whether whiteness was the center of how we saw the world. Now, let me be clear. that while those guys are racist, that they want support only for blue-eyed and blonde, not your usual refugees that we see, not your terrorist ones. The truth is, our humanity is that we should be supporting the victims of any injustice, right? But what we are pointing out here is that there are other cases that are equally there that we support, not sufficiently. And I had a chat with the station manager and others, that the way to show up the inhumanity of these others who are so selective in their human rights is for us to continue to champion the cause of the poor. In the first 24 hours of coverage of the Ukraine war in most countries, they've crowded out all other stories of suffering. The Yemenis have been...
Okay, Hassan's picture has just frozen there. Let's try and very quickly reconnect. Please stay with us.
shelled and bombed and for the last 18 which...
Okay, Hassan, we seem to be having a problem. Your picture keeps freezing. Can you just go back to the start of this piece that you were sharing with us? Because the picture froze completely and I had no audio there.
So sorry about that. What I was saying, that I had penned the small piece called The Despicable Media, right? To point out how it seems that international media, including South African media, were so obsessed with the narrative that comes from privilege and power, or whiteness, that way, right? And that in the first 24 hours of coverage of the Ukraine crisis, where we should give our support because there are victims there, right? It seems that it's crowded out all other coverage of the war on the Yemenis, which for the last 8 years has had scant coverage in our media. Scant coverage. 24 hours, it was wall-to-wall coverage. Yemen is 6 hours away from us. Ukraine is probably 9 hours away from us by plane. Palestine about 7. So there are a number of other struggles that we're not covering.
I guess, Hassan, and I concur with you, completely. In terms of just north of our borders, we know the suffering in Somalia and other such places. You've raised the issue of the Yemenis. We also know what's happening with well, you and I, anyway, know what's happening with the Rohingya people. And let's not even talk about the Palestinian issue. I mean, exactly what's happening in the Ukraine is what has happened to the Palestinian people way back. And the international community were not as vociferous as they are with this Russian invasion of the Ukraine. And obviously simply because, as you say, blue-eyed and blonde-haired people.
Yeah, but you see, Julie, what we have to be careful about is that we will support the victims of war and injustice anywhere in the world. But what we are pointing out is that the powerful have been selective. There are some of the people who are deserving victims, deserving refugees. Look at the football league that I support, La Liga. All of a sudden, emblazoned on the side of the football matches, no war, no a la guerra, or no to invasion. But when a player from Sevilla once tried to put on a T-shirt protesting the attacks on the Gaza, he was highly reprimanded, fined for doing so. When Catalans tried to speak out for a greater autonomy in Spain, they said, you can't bring in your T-shirts, your posters. So there seemed to be this selectivity in terms of which struggles are permissible, right? And this is the part of the problem. The football clubs, FIFA, they all want no politics when it comes to red carding Israel for racism. When you raise issues, they say no. But all of a sudden, they're highly political, highly human rights now. So it's that kind of discrepancy we point out. But Yemen is in need of our support, whether it is Ukraine or not. The Saudi-led bombing has made victims of most of the people. As you pointed out, 377,000 Yemenis have died by this US and Saudi-led war, right? 1.3 million of these lives lost would be lost, they've calculated, if there's no intervention by 2030, right? So look at that. Not the refugees, they'll be dead, you know. And what does the UK do? They basically fuel and service the planes. The US provides the weapons, right? And, you know, so this hypocrisy cannot go unsaid, but it must not be pushing us out that we do not support victims. We do, but we're saying, why do you jump over these victims who've been there all along and you go and support others there? You should support those who are immediate now, but no one has said that bombing has stopped in Yemen. The bombing continues as we speak. And that is the issue. How do they get rewarded, the Saudis? Barcelona, Real Madrid played in Riyadh in a football match. In the Spanish Super Cup gets played in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis buy a football club in England, the Premier League, Newcastle. They don't sell off like Abramovich, who's got his ill-gotten gains, no doubt about it. But you know, who says that the gains of the Saudis are legitimate? So clearly, there must be a broader conversation. We are not trying to say whataboutism. We're saying Ukraine, yes, but also, right? And with
Okay,
the
Hassan,
racism by
yeah, absolutely. Let's look at this. You know, you raised a very important point there when you spoke about the UK sending these planes over to assist Saudi Arabia in the bombing of Yemen's, and you know, I guess this happens in all the poorer nations. Who gains from these wars? Is it not once again the European countries who are the manufacturers of these armaments? They need to have these wars happen because that's how they make their millions. Absolutely.
Wars are profitable. So you're right. It's a vicious circle. So they provide aid. They get Saudi on their side, who provide the oil cheaply for them, and then they still sell military weapons. And for what? To prop up a small regime, not even a democratic one. You know, so clearly you could kill journalists, but that could be okay, you know. So clearly these are problems. But you know what has been disturbing is that our media seem not to have taken on. Trevor Noah made jokes about the racism. You know, Mehdi Hassan and Ayman Moideen pointed out in a very small snippet on MSNBC. They are journalists like yourself beginning to get these voices out to say, no. There's racist coverage. And I love the coverage on MSNBC where Zarina pointed out, one of the presenters there, she pointed out how her name is Zerlina Maxwell, in a conversation with Eddie Glaude, they pointed out that it was around whiteness. This problem is around whiteness. There's a failure to see the humanity of others, right? And then, of course, it didn't stop her in the next program to call for support for the Ukraine. That's the right position. It's the right position. We call for support for the victims, but we must point out the racism. And of course, in the end of my piece, I quote Ilan Pape, who wrote in Palestine Chronicles, and he says that the first lesson that we learn from Ukraine is white refugees are welcome, others not so. Number 2, you can invade Iraq, but not the Ukraine. Lesson 3, sometimes neo-Nazism can be tolerated, as I pointed out with Facebook and others. They unban these guys because they say they're patriotic. They're patriotic when they've got to get into war, but outside the war, they're killing others who don't look like them. Lesson 4, hitting high rises is only a war crime if it is in Europe. Otherwise, in Gaza, it's just the norm. So that's what Ilan Pape wrote. I added the 5th one. Mainstream media, even in the global south, still shape the news agenda to satisfy the powerful elites. So,
okay,
you know,
Hassan, I've got a message from a listener, and the question asked is: are we not being reactionary? Why don't Muslims invest in their own media and stop being reactionary? And I can't agree more, because You know, we can't even say we don't have the might, the will, and the finances to do this. How come we're stalled as far as this issue is concerned?
Julie, we have been trying to talk to Muslim media in a group, about 15 of them, print, radio, TV. ITV is in crisis. Okay.
Absolutely.
Muslim Views is struggling to get funding from a powerful Muslim constituency. Muslim Views has been there covering Imam Harun's death and
Yes.
all from that time on. So what we need to do, Salam Media is flourishing. Radio Islam is flush with money, not flourishing only, but flush. What we need to do is have a solidarity fund to make sure that these multiple voices that are out there can grow. The role you play in humanitarian radio station in this space, it competes with others, with the best in this country, because other community radio stations don't even have AGMs, right? They don't even have boards. They've been taken over. So I think Muslim radio stations are trying and punching above their weight, but we can do better. Look, we are discussing this issue. We cannot get this conversation on the mainstream media.
Absolutely.
And the point is to build our media while we contest the space there. We shouldn't give up, because South Africa is there for all of us, and we should make it democratic. And these views are mainstream views, and you are contributing already.
Alhamdulillah, shukran very much for those encouraging words. I will give you the opportunity to wrap up, summarize what you've been sharing with us this morning. But I end off by saying, I said it over the past 2 weeks, and I say it yet again, Black lives don't matter as far as the Western world is concerned. Over to you, Hassen.
Human rights are indivisible. You cannot talk about the rights of Yemenis, Palestinians, Ukrainians, and come home and beat your wife. So they're indivisible. But when there's a war going on in Ukraine, it's true, there should be support for them, but the support should be based on principle, not the color of your eyes or the color of your hair. Yemenis have been dying for 8 years. They need support as well.
Hassen Lorgat, once again, the picture.
Let's make human rights.
Absolutely. Shukran. It's been wonderful talking to you today. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for the article. Till the next time, as always, go well. And I do pray that your cat comes home safely, inshallah, in good health. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. And for the picture for freezing, we've got to blame Eskom. I know they're not involved in freezing business.
We have to blame someone. We have to blame someone. 8:38 exactly. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media.